Welcome to How We Grow, an essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz, with your host, Lynell Gordon. Welcome to How We Grow, the Vacation Rental Show. I'm Lynell Gordon. I'm your host, and I'm excited to have Alistair Malins with us today. Alistair is the CEO and founder of Luxury Cottages, a premium vacation rental company focused on matchmaking the guest with their dream property. Now, guys, if that's not a lot of fun, I don't know what is. Alistair is also a serial entrepreneur. He has founded other companies before this, but Alistair, I want you to tell it the way you did. You said that you have background in law, you have background in banking, but the background that makes the difference, you said, was that you were servicing the client.
Yep.
That's your passion, right? Making your clients happy.
Yeah, I was going to say, so really my background's always been in customer service, whether it's been as a lawyer or been in banking, but it's been focused on client outcomes, making sure your client is looked after. And we've applied similar sort of principles and approach to owner relations. Ultimately, a lot of the owners at a premium end, the expectation is good quality service. They're used to working, some of them bank with brands like Coots. They're expecting to be able to speak to someone quite senior or have a relationship manager at the end of the phone. And we've always been a very personal company. And like I say, we sort of grew up with that in our DNA, with people like Michelle having worked 25 years at elegant resorts. You know, again, really, really sort of high-end service and focus on customers, both at the guest side and the owner side. So it's sort of in the DNA of what we do.
I want to throw something else out there, guys. So Alistair has a master's from Oxford University. He is very well educated, in addition to very well educated in business. And so he's really a great guy to ask about business and the way that he set it up. So let's talk for just a minute. How long has your company been in business?
So just over 3 years. We started just before Christmas 2019 and launched pretty much start of 2020. So about 3 months before the first lockdown in the UK.
And you have made an incredibly successful business in that time. So you're talking to me about how to make your owners happy. Talk to me a little bit about what you mean by service that you provide to your owners. Tell me what that looks like.
Really, it started all off from the kitchen table, literally just picking up the phone and speaking to owners and finding out what they needed. We were sort of born into lockdown, so we were all work from home to start off with. And it just took really some initial reaching out to owners, speaking to them, going to visit them. I actually really enjoy that part of the business, going out and meeting owners, spending a bit of time with them, finding out about their business and what drives them. And we've always felt our brand is very much about partnering with owners. It's about giving them a lot of support and working hard for them and doing everything we can to keep them happy. So very much about that customer service. It's both owner focused and guest focused. So we do a similar sort of level of high touch service with our guests, but we feel that that really, really oils the machine, so to speak. It reduces the friction between the two parties. And it's a classic sort of agency model. Ultimately, that's what you're there for. You're adding value to both sides.
So the one thing I don't like about property management, my family's in property management, that one part is dealing with owners. I don't mind dealing with guests, love them, but the owner part, and you seem to really thrive on that. So how do you approach that? What do you look for in an owner that tells you he's going to be successful with your company? Or what are the red flags on either side of it?
Yeah, so I would say trust. So it's very much a trusting relationship. A lot of owners, this is their pride and joy. It's either a second home or a large investment of theirs. They want it to be looked after. They want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to maximize the amount of income that they're making. But most importantly, they want a trusting relationship. So they want someone they can feel they can talk to at any point. They can ask for advice, whether it's on pricing, whether it's on how their property's set up. We do a sort of full 360 service. So we'll do anything from helping them with interior design all the way through to a commercial setup. And I think when it works best, it's when you've built that relationship over time, you've got that trusting relationship, and they allow you to essentially go out and do what you can to represent them.
So do you do automated pricing or do you set your prices manually?
We do a mixture. So we use dynamic pricing for some clients, generally for the smaller units, and for large units, generally it's more suitable in static pricing. So that's generally how we find it, but it really depends on the owner.
So how do you convince an owner that you want to use dynamic pricing? How do they handle that?
To be perfectly honest, it's about expectations. So if an owner's quite new to the market and they don't really have a lot of experience, a lot of the time they'd be happier with the static pricing model. Whereas dynamic pricing, if you've got an owner that's been around for a while, they kind of know the market. They generally are a bit more comfortable with dynamic pricing. I mean, ultimately, you've got to be comfortable that the price that's being booked is right. It's what the market's dictating. And ultimately, we see it generate more than, sort of 30-40% for some clients, but actually more than 100% for others, depending on how things have been going. Obviously, it's a slightly more, I would say, challenging market at the moment. Not quite as in those sort of heady days of lockdowns and COVID, but ultimately it's just down to expectations. And back to that point on trust, if the owner trusts you and you've got a good working relationship, a lot of the time they're happy.
What kind of campaigns do you do to get additional homeowners, or are you even looking? Is that the way you're growing? We're talking about how to grow a vacation rental business. And I mean, homeowner acquisition is obviously the bottom line to it. How do you decide? Is it a property and you go, gee, I want to meet the owner of that property? Or how do you go after homeowners?
We don't spend any money on outbound marketing. It's all inbound, and it's conversations with our owner team. So they're going out and speaking to owners directly. We get quite a lot of inbound via the website. We're quite picky in terms of who we do work with. I think to that point, I always say there's no point signing a contract if the working relationship isn't strong in the first place. You need to have that bond and you need to generate that over time. So it does take a bit of time to build that relationship, but once it's built, for the most part, just reinvesting time, money, and effort into supporting it.
If you could go back 3 years and tell yourself something that you might not have known at the beginning about your homeowners and the way to take care of them, or about the vacation rental business, what would you tell yourself?
Good question. Always be discerning. I think as a business, we are quite a discerning brand with focus on the premium end. I think in the early days, we accepted some owners and some contracts that probably weren't right for us and probably weren't right for them. And we just got a lot better now at sort of filtering out what works for us, what works for the owners, and not taking on relationships that we can't support or relationships that don't fit for us as a brand. Obviously, when you're starting off as a young business, you're kind of running around trying to sign up everyone and anyone and get things moving. But we have instilled that. And in the early days, it was just me. It was myself and Michelle, and slowly growing the team. Now we've got a team of people out there recruiting for us. But it's having that same quality control, same ethos throughout the business.
Built by property managers for property managers. Streamline is a powerful software that gives managers enterprise-level capabilities to drive more revenue and improve operational efficiency. Migrating to Streamline allows property managers to gain functionality while reducing the need for multiple vendors, improving flow by logging into a single system and reducing redundant technology costs. With Streamline, property managers achieve revenue lifts by leveraging our fully fledged communication center, reservations quoting system, revenue management tools, homeowner acquisition CRM, and powerful direct OTA connections. Streamline also has industry-leading trust accounting and report capabilities to give you clarity in an overall company performance. Learn more about Streamline Vacation Rental Software at streamlinevrs.com.
The team that you have that goes out, that does recruitment, you've trained those personally to discern the way that you do? Do you have like this checklist? Here are the things that we want in an owner. Here are the things we want in a property, so that you match it that way?
We've got a checklist of sorts. It's essentially a checklist of different things to look for. But ultimately, coming back to the point earlier, it is about the property, but it's also about the owner. And I would say it's really important to build that initial relationship with the owner. Ultimately, the properties generally will sell themselves if you get the marketing right. It's really having a strong relationship with an owner, because things aren't always going to be amazing and going in the right direction. Sometimes there'll be ups and downs, and you just got to make sure that relationship's strong and that you can pick up the phone and they can speak to you. If it's me or if it's one of the other, what we call PPMs, it's having that ability to speak to someone on the phone. It's so important.
And I want to make a point here, because what you just said is the epitome of any customer service. It's the relationship that exists. And that's why networking is so important in our industry, that people are able to meet their clients on a regular basis where they are and be able to talk to them. Now, because of the luxury cottages, I have one more question for you about location. Do you serve a certain geographic area, or do you branch out?
So we're completely national. So anywhere from St. Ives up to the Scottish Highlands. We don't have a particular sort of geographic focus. It's really more about finding the right properties. And they're not always in the sort of classic holiday locations. We do have properties in areas that you wouldn't necessarily think of as a holiday letting area. But because of the quality of the property and the amenities and everything else that they bring, they're very popular and they book out well.
That's phenomenal. That is. Now, tell me your favorite owner story.
Well, we've actually got some great owners who have been with us for a while, and we've actually had an owner with us almost from the start who has been renovating a property up in the Lake District, and he's literally single-handedly pretty much renovated it. I think it's a 7 or 8 bed now. And now he's done all the work to it up there with it's got a hot tub. It's got beautiful gardens, cinema room. And he was working all the way through COVID, literally on a sort of camper mattress, working through COVID, doing a lot of the work himself. It's just some amazing stories. It's one of the things I love about the business is that you've got all these different stories. This is a guy that's sort of invested in the property to get it up and running and use it as almost like a retirement pension income. So yeah, there's some really interesting stories during lockdown and COVID. People really just sort of battling against adversity and getting their businesses up and running.
So is he your favorite owner? You can't say that.
I can't say that name.
No. If you were starting again, this business, what would you do differently today?
Well, you always make mistakes as an entrepreneur. It's part of learning. It's part of failing to learn those lessons, right? And I think one of the key things, obviously, is that we are a startup business. We've basically been built from the ground up, and you don't always hire the right people. You're not always able to support the people in their job and allow them to do what they need to do. And it's incredibly tough. So it is one of those things that, I don't have any regrets, so to speak, but I do think that there have been opportunities or missed opportunities with people, and then also instances where things haven't quite worked out. So I would always say no regrets, but ultimately we've grown quite quickly. And I think one of the key things is when you're growing quickly, sometimes you take your eye off the ball and you lose out on certain things, whether that's hiring the right people or not keeping the right people in the business.
So it's just business advice. And that's really good business advice, surrounding yourself with the right people. And I don't think that any one of us learn without failure. I think failure is a really important part. And that's the reason I asked that question, because I think that when you're in business and you're having trouble, it's always nice to hear that someone successful has been there and has walked through your shoes in that. If we could make any technology at all that would help you in your business, what technology would that be?
There's a lot of investment going into the sector, into property management and software, and there's a million different businesses out there. I would say, and this is sort of magic ball territory here, but if you look at a lot of other sectors, if you look at just general e-commerce sector, you've got businesses that are kind of like a one-stop shop for everything. Shopify is a great example. You can set up a business next to no money. You can get it working amazingly, get product to market, get the register ringing, so to speak, very, very cost effectively in those industries. You can do it relatively easy in our industry, but there are still barriers. There are still issues around the sort of tech and the software in terms of getting it all to work seamlessly. So I think that is one area. If you could replicate a Shopify for holiday letting, I think it would be an interesting business, put it that way.
So it would be automated. You just log online and it would be cloud-based.
I mean, there's a lot of cloud-based software providers. It's, I guess, having it as slick and easy to use as something like Shopify. Again, whether it's marketing, whether it's WordPress for websites, a lot of different bits of software and linking them all together. I don't feel like there's one single supplier out there that just does everything for you.
So what surprised you most when you went into property management? What is the most surprising thing that you found?
I mean, I guess to a certain extent, it's a people business. You are dealing with people, and obviously guests sometimes are a bit naughty and do naughty things. So to a certain extent, some of the stories that you get are pretty hair-raising, but ultimately people are going away on holiday. They're going to enjoy themselves, and sometimes they enjoy themselves a little bit too much. So,
interestingly enough, I've been in the business a long time, and that surprised me too. We have a holiday rental, and we came back to it last year, and there was a hole in the pool. There was literally a hole in the pool. We said, "What happened to the pool?" And my brother, he said there was a biker gang there. I said there was a biker, and it's a luxury rental. There was a biker gang in the luxury rental. So yeah, they surprise me too sometimes. I think that's fun. I really appreciate you being with us and talking about owner acquisition. I know everyone hopes that they can build an owner acquisition team who can matchmake your owners to your team that goes out. And as long as they do a good job of getting as many property owners as match your portfolio, good luck with that.
There's an element, sort of marketplace type business model, right? So you are matchmaking, two sides of the coin. It's one, finding the right property for the guest and, ultimately booking them a great holiday. There is an element of matchmaking with the owners as well. They've got to be a good match for us as a business. So like I say, it's very much relationship based. And it's very much an investment that you make into that relationship over time. I always say if someone's going to sign up in 5 minutes with you, they're more likely to want to leave in 5 minutes. If you build that relationship over time, then people are a lot more willing to invest in terms of supporting that relationship.
Wow, that's a great quote. That's a really great quote. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And Alistair, if someone is beginning their business, or even if they've been in it a while and they want just to roll ideas or get ideas from someone about homeowner acquisition, would you be willing to talk to them?
Yeah, always happy to speak to people. I've got quite a few good relationships with other businesses in the sector. We all talk to each other and always happy to speak to people, whether they're new in or whether they're established in the sector. You can always learn from others.
So guys, if you want to know a little bit more about homeowner acquisition and the way that Alistair has done it so successfully, please reach out to him. I know that's awkward to think about, but honestly, if you just email, that's a really great way to start. How would they get in touch with you, Alistair?
Probably best thing is via the website. There's a contact form on there and it's easy to fill in and get in touch that way. It's luxurycottages.com.
Luxurycottages.com, guys. All right. Thanks again, Alistair. I appreciate you being here and sharing.
It's quite all right.
This episode of How We Grow is brought to you by Streamline. To find out more about how Streamline can help grow your vacation rental business, visit streamlinevrs.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.